This is America's Man's Man. I'm not at my very best right now, but the threats to our republic know no end, and they certainly don't sleep, and neither does America's Man's Man. So I don't have a makeup team like the fake news, but we have to address some things. So let's get to it. Bernie Sanders' field manager is threatening to burn Milwaukee if Bernie Sanders doesn't get elected. Well, the threat got out. He was actually training one of his communist minions. But this creeping communism, this communist creep within the Democratic Party, this is their end goal. They want to create complete chaos. Watch the video on americasmansman.com. Watch the episode called The Party of Evil. The Party of Evil, talking about the Democratic Party, because this is where Nancy Pelosi's end game is. Ronald Reagan may or may not have called her evil because of her mob ties. However, the Democratic Party is the party of communism, atheistic communism, and the party of evil, okay? We have to name the enemy. Now, over the years, the communist fake news, I happen to bump into one of the government, the communist unionized government school teachers. He's happily enjoying his retirement right now. He actually wasn't one of my teachers, and frankly, I have no desire to interact with the unionist, the union commie teacher that I happen to have at Linfield High School, whom I asked, but this is a friend of this teacher, and I asked this other teacher, how's the communist teacher? I didn't call him that, because I was being, there wasn't any need to. There's nothing that could be accomplished by it. And this particular person, for all I know, maybe he doesn't deserve it. Maybe because he wasn't, the person I ran into wasn't my communist teacher. He was someone else's unionized communist teacher. And he may not have even been a communist teacher. He may have been just your average run-of-the-mill unionized, go along, just like the Nazis went along with Nazi Germany, regardless of how educated or miseducated they were. So anyway, and evidently this unionized commie government school teacher is happily enjoying his retirement. Well, good for him, right? And that's the thing. I'm not judging these people too harshly, because I know they are part of a vast, unthinking mob. Although I have to say, this particular communist teacher was diabolical. And the way he'd say the Pledge of Allegiance every single day, and I covered this in a previous episode, he'd say, one nation under God, and he'd do this in the most disrespectful way. And it was just that way, kind of like stalkers, the way that they operate. They're just annoying enough that they want to, they want to make your life hell, but they stop short of doing anything criminal. Well, we need to name the enemy right now, okay? Because the fake news and your unionized commie public government school teachers, America's Man's Man, and all America's Man's Men, who are the people who watch this video, who watch all of America's Man's Man's episodes. Well, you folks are the millennials largely, although obviously we get many pastors who are among our vast audience. We have, oddly, a lot of people in Australia are watching America's Man's Man. Because even in Australia, they recognize that America is the longtime leader of the world, and they don't want to see America fail. Because, again, it is English, it is values, and ironically, my commie teacher that I was talking about, the friend of a friend I met today, by friend of a friend, not really a friend, because we'll call him an acquaintance who happens to be a member of the Communist Party, or the Democratic Party. They just call it. Listen. This is how the fake news has gotten us to laugh at terms like Satan over the years, okay? And I'm not going to drop the Satan bomb here because I know you picture this maybe a a woman wearing, maybe at Halloween time, you picture a woman, a scantily clad lady in some slinky outfit with, wearing tight black hose and, little cute devil horns, and it's like, hey, sexy devil. Well, it's because of these reasons that those sexy devils who dress up that way are being raped now and joining the Me Too movement, okay? So that's a sobering thought. Why don't you think of that before going out as a devil, as a sexy devil on Halloween, okay? So, but that's besides the point. We want to name the enemy. And first of all, so I want to appeal to atheists right now, because you atheists out there, you hate the word Satan. You don't want anything to... Okay, so... let's go with the Jordan Peterson kind of interpolation of the Bible, okay? Jordan Peterson, if you're an atheist, by the way, atheists love Jordan Peterson's deconstruction of the Bible, okay? So what he's doing is he's connecting it with the person, with the human element of it. It's like, what are the common stories? How is this Bible such a powerful monument that it really it just strikes home? It is the greatest work of literature of all time, and so much more than that. But let's just agree that far for the sake of argument, because we are reaching the satanic, the unchurched right now. We're talking to the unchurched. And pastors, if you have an issue with the way I'm dealing with this topic, saying, oh, you know what, you can't explain the Bible in atheistic terms. This is, C.S. Lewis I came to faith through reason, okay? Peter Vidala, America's man's man, I had to reason all this stuff away, because I grew up among Christian haters, like my communist government school. I can't imagine a time in my life, I don't know a time in my life, when I was actually among a majority of patriotic Americans, because I live just north of the hub of the universe. I grew up, communist Massachusetts is my briar patch, and it's only because I've seen how evil this gulag is that I grew up in the disgusting ignorance. The Massachusetts, they're all independent voters, but they really just do whatever the fake news tells them to, and they don't even know that they're doing it. As Jesus said on the cross, if you're an atheist, as Jesus was fabled to have said on the cross, forgive them, they don't know what they do. And when you really understand what the Dems are all about, which is, it's communism, folks. And we have to name that. You have to, I remember being at Franciscan University, and I was a member of what we're going to call it a frat for the sake of just not going on for another video. So my fraternity at Franciscan University, and there I wasn't in the majority either. I've never ever, I wouldn't know how to live life as a member of the majority, because I've always clung to my Bible and my guns my whole life, amid a very hostile, amid an America, amid a subculture, which is hostile to the very foundations of America, my country, and my God, whom I love very much, in some shape or form or another. Now, I've lived in some places which are friendlier to Christ than others, but I've never lived as a millennial. I've never lived in an America which truly appreciates, the fact that there is a good and there is an evil, and this is due to the fact that over the last century, there's a song by a Christian rock group named Casting Crowns. Now, I hate Christian rock now. I still preside over a nonprofit foundation whose mission it is to play Christian, so-called Christian rock or Christian inspirational Christian music. But I realized over time that that Christian rock was actually part of the problem, and how imitative it really is. But again, trying to stay on the straight and narrow here, because we don't have a lot of time. So we want to get to this. Casting Crowns is a song. It's called "It's a Slow Fade When You Give Your Heart Away, When Black and White Turn to Gray." And one of the fake news media's major tricks, one of the things that makes it tick, is that there's no context. Again, I refer you to the book "Amusing Ourselves to Death" to flesh this out. It's a book by late NYU professor Neil Postman. The whole thing about media is it not only is a medium, it not only is like news, for instance, it has zero context. It has to appeal to the lowest common denominator. I know very wealthy people, and they know it's total baloney. They know it's total baloney because it is. It's always been that way. It always will be that way, and that's one of my purposes as a missionary, as a Christian, fighting for America with my life. And we'll tell you more about that a little bit later. Whether I've been in a municipal legislative body or in the workplace and everywhere, there's something terribly wrong. I am the frog that is trying to convince the other frogs to. I actually had a job as a frog for a country radio station once, but I am literally that frog in the boiling pot, and I'm trying to get all of you other frogs to jump out. I'm trying to get all of you frogs to jump out, and this is a big allegory, by the way. So if this isn't connecting, it's like, what's he talking about? He's a frog. Just do a quick search on the Gulag, which you're probably using as your search engine. The Gulag. And that kind of, but the thing about fake news is when you have a whole country that's been just, this is how they get their information. This is how you get your information. It not only spits a whole bunch of trivia from all over the world as quickly as possible at the speed of light to you, faster than they even understand what's going on. It trains your mind, and again, you don't know this because it's all happening subconsciously. But, if you were brainwashed, would you know it? Do brainwashed people know that they're brainwashed? No. Do the frogs in the boiling pot know that they're slowly being boiled? No. And you don't know that you're slowly being boiled. You are being propagandized. And not only that, your parents have too, and their parents were as well. And it really went into hyperdrive. Notwithstanding talk of the Industrial Revolution's hidden side effects on the mind, we're focused on we're taking this in baby steps. So I want to focus specifically on when this all got accelerated, and that has been with the advent of broadcast media during the 1930s-ish, the invention of the radio, the television, the telegraph, the teletype, and finally the Gulag. The Gulag. Which is Google. I'm using we're using a farcical, semi-farcical term there, but it really isn't that far from the truth. Google is actually designing and implementing communist China's social systems so as to make all of the Chinese walk in lockstep with their government against every single democratic and republican principle that we've ever known. So make no mistake, the Democratic Party today is communist, and Bernie Sanders, of course, looking to infiltrate. The Democratic Party has already adopted communism as its core model. So every Nancy Pelosi, it doesn't matter if you're Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, or any of them. But however, we're seeing the cord begin to unravel. Project Veritas just dropping a teaser, and God knows how much more evidence we'll see as they release the video. But they've done an undercover video, and Bernie Sanders people, his field manager, these are people who work directly for the Bernie Sanders campaign. They are now they're training. They're training. They want to re-educate. You got to watch the video of that James O'Keefe's Project Veritas just dropped. They're literally literally saying that they're going to, that the gulags were a good thing, and that's why, this is why. He says explicitly, okay? Explicitly! He says this is why we have to re-educate Americans, and this is the purpose of free education for all. We're going to re-educate them, just like they did in the gulags of Russia. And by the way, I know Russians, and they are about a good portion of the Russian population today believes that America is actually evil. There's still that, you think communism is dead? It's not, okay? Because Russians have been brought up by their re-education system, and you know what the worst thing it is, and I know quite a few Russians, and they tell me people my age, people who are younger than I am, people who are in this communist state, and I'm pretty sure that, I don't know what they call it, but obviously it's communist, just like the Democratic Party is communist, only obviously it's much more entrenched there, and there are no checks and balances. You got this Bernie Sanders field organizer, someone paid directly by the Bernie Sanders campaign, in a video. You can watch the video for yourself. So there's no disputing this. It's an actual video from the Bernie Sanders campaign training a newbie who happens to be an undercover journalist for Project Veritas, which again, I don't believe in fake news. So even Project Veritas, what they're doing, but they're the only reason Project Veritas has to exist to do what they do is because the rest of the fake news has been doing what they do. I am completely against the very premise of any and all fake news, and Project Veritas is merely playing a gotcha game by outdoing the larger fake news world with the same way Fox News wouldn't have risen to become the number one fake news cable network if there weren't all this other fake news. Their bread and butter is calling out the lies of the fake news and the dirty work they've done. And that's what Project Veritas is doing. In principle, I believe that the fake news needs to go away. Needs to be, because the truth is that fake news is not freedom of speech. It is sedition. It is against the interests of the American people. It is at its very worst terrorism. Fake news is domestic terrorism. It leads directly. Maybe you can't connect all of the dots between how CNN's coverage of things like Black Lives Matter and the actual anti-police violence, but I can, and it makes me sick as a God-loving, God-fearing, American-loving, America's man's man. So America's man's men are following America's man's man, and we are rejecting all of the evil things that our communist unionized school indoctrinators drove into our heads. People like I met today, and I bumped into today, and we are rejecting that. We're rejecting that wholesale, and we are instead embracing our foundations as a godly nation, the most God's exceptional nation, America, the land of the free, the home of the brave. But the point of this video, chiefly the takeaway from this, and they all believe this, they're all on a slow path. Bernie Sanders is attempting to re-educate America the same way that according to this field rep of his, things that he would never explicitly, intentionally release to the public, but it was, call it the biggest Freudian slip ever, call it what you want. We need to name the enemy. Bernie Sanders' field manager said that, basically we need to re-educate Americans the way that the Gulag did, and you can expect a violent reaction. They're going to, he literally said Milwaukee is going to burn. It's going to start with Milwaukee. And guess what? The fake news, their friends in the fake news are going to frigging fan into flame this rebellion, and people, this is going to be the dog whistle, if you will, to the other commies, okay? The commies who are, who are just waiting. It's like, oh, this is our sign. This is our time. We're gonna do what all of our unionized communist government school indoctrinators told us to do, which is to react violently in the likes of Black Lives Matter. We're gonna burn more cities and fight the police, just like De Blasio is encouraging them to do in New York. This is because of the terrorist fake news, the communist terrorist fake news, and their communist. They're communist, anchors and anchorettes. This is what they do. I was on the inside of it, and the fake news are communists, and we need to name the enemy. I know. You've been taught to laugh at communism, like you've been told to laugh at the devil. 3 years of fake news training, and they're of course, the fake news is tied to all the sitcoms and all that malarkey that they've been feeding you. This is American culture. The devil is just a sexy girl in a Halloween costume. That's American culture today, thanks to advertising culture and entertainment, infotainment culture. Ha, devil, ha, ha, ha. And again, this is why you sexy devils are being raped, okay? Because you don't take the devil seriously. To all you atheists out there, the devil is... Just think of the devil as the very worst kind of evil that's capable of man. You want to laugh at the devil, you're really laughing at the very true notion, the very humbling notion that all of us must carry with us, that man is capable of extreme evil. And you're gullible, you're naive if you don't think that communism is alive and well and growing into country, and that they're going to play some major tricks on the American people. And that you might very well die because of it, that you're going to see a mass shooting on television, you're going to see things burning on television, you're going to see Milwaukee burning. The Bernie Sanders campaign guy is threatened it. So, in the fake news, they're going to keep on talking, oh, we got to impeach President Trump. Well, it's because they're communists, okay? So name the enemy. We've got to name the enemy. That's the chief takeaway here from this video. We've got to name that enemy, and the enemy is communism. Specifically, we're going to call it atheistic communism. Why? Because you have a person running for president right now who has gained wide acceptance with stupid, indoctrinated millennials, okay? And millennials, you got to make a decision. You're like, oh, I love Bernie Sanders. You want to see your America burning? Or there's two ways. There's only one. You only have two options. Everything else is just just subterfuge. Okay, you can either be on the side of America. You can be on the side of America. Okay, and America's God. It says we are good and we are the exceptional nation. Or you can be on the side of burning cities, of being on the side of of destroying the police and letting anarchy rule, which is where evil thrives, in darkness, right? And this is what the Washington Post, the evil alliance of Silicon Valley and the fake news uses as their slogan. But of course, they're only mocking it because they're creating evil. You got two options, fellow American, okay? You got two options. You can go with the side of the gulag, the people who are openly promoting a gulag in America to educate America. This is Elizabeth Warren's free education. Bernie Sanders, free education for all. No. They said, we're going to take all you people who have earned a lot in your life and whom we're jealous of. We're going to make you crush stones so you can learn what it's like to be a slave. They want to turn all of America into slaves, and this is what they've always wanted to do. So, main takeaway here, first of all, name your enemy. It's atheistic communism. That's number one. Number two, you only have two options. You're either patriotic American. You're either a patriotic American who supports capitalism and the great God of America and the fact that we're an exceptional nation and you love this country, or you don't. If you don't love this country, you're a communist and you need to get out. You need to get out because we're sick of you trying to change the system from the inside with the help of your communist fake news anchor friends, okay? Because you terrorists in the fake news, you're going to be held accountable if America's man's man has anything to do with it, and America's man's man is going to do it legally and ethically, but you're being put on notice. Fake news, communists, Bernie Sanders people, and because I'm telling you right now what's going to happen. I saw it with Black Lives Matter. Bernie Sanders' official team members are going to set Milwaukee on fire if nothing is done. Police in Milwaukee, Bernie Sanders' campaign is going to set your city on fire. Okay? FBI, Bernie Sanders' campaign is going to this is Project Veritas talking, okay? It's their video. It's their undercover video. This is Bernie Sanders' campaign threatening to set Milwaukee on fire and cause violence. Just like the field manager said, we've seen this with Black Lives Matter. What's going to happen? Well, the fake news is going to pick it up as soon as it happens. And then there's going to be copycats, because this is human nature. It's the bandwagon approach to advertising, which is that, it's okay for them to do it. We're going to do it. They did this with Black Lives Matter. So FBI and any relevant authorities need to learn from this and prevent it before America gets set on fire, because the fake news is communist. They've been doing this. They've had the same game plan for years, and there's got to be a more proactive approach to shutting it down. Again, millennials who love Bernie Sanders because he's going to give you free education. No, he's not going to give you free education. He's going to, it's like the equivalent of sensitivity training at the workplace. It's, you're going to nod your head and say yes, or we're going to make you crush stones for 10 years. It's the gulag, in Bernie Sanders' campaign field manager's own words. And by the way, I got to give Project Veritas credit here for exposing this field manager of the Bernie Sanders campaign. You got to watch it for yourself, because if you think the communist fake newsers are going to tell you about it, until they absolutely have to. And I think after this video from America's Man's Man, I think they're going to be telling you about it. But that's we know that they're communists, so you got to shut down these communist infiltrators and again take seriously. So the two takeaways here: name the enemy, and that's atheistic communism. It's not a laughing matter. Atheistic communism is alive and well, and it's evil, and it means enslavement for Americans. And they're working within the system just as they said they would. Number two, you're either on one of the two sides. You're a patriotic American like America's Man's Man, or you're an atheistic communist. And that's reality. This is America's Man's Man. We're not always pretty. We get the job done, and I'm so thankful that you've chosen, hopefully, to be on the side of God's exceptional nation, the land of the free, the home of the brave, America. Peace out.